Metaphor. A metaphor compares two different things. This includes objects, ideas, feelings, or thoughts. We say that something is something else. Remember that we can also use other forms of the verb to be. For example, am, are, was, and were. For example, Jim is a giraffe. So this doesn't literally mean that Jim is a giraffe. Instead, this metaphor compares Jim with a giraffe. Although they are two different things, they're being compared due to their common characteristic, which is their height. So essentially, I'm saying that Jim is very tall. Metaphors make sentences more interesting and create an image in the reader's mind. So rather than just saying Jim is tall, I use the metaphor Jim is a giraffe. Another example is life is a roller coaster. Again, I'm comparing two different things, life and a roller coaster. I'm comparing them due to their common characteristic, which is that they both have highs and lows. Remember that a metaphor is a figure of speech. This means that it shouldn't be taken literally, as the words in the sentence convey a different meaning. Simile. A simile compares two different things. We say that something is like or as something else. For example, Jim is as tall as a giraffe. In this example, the simile compares two different things that are compared due to their common characteristic, which is their height. So essentially, I'm saying that Jim is very tall. The simile makes the sentence more interesting and creates an image in the reader's mind, rather than simply just saying Jim is tall. Another example is, she swam like a fish. Again, the simile compares two different things due to their common characteristic, which is that they can both swim very well. Remember that a simile is a figure of speech. This means that it shouldn't be taken literally, as the words in the sentence convey a different meaning. Lastly, remember that similes always includes the words like or as. Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like what it describes. It's a language technique used to make writing more interesting and helps the reader to hear the sounds in their minds. For example, the water went splash when I jumped into it. The emphasis is on the sound the water makes. Splash. This is the onomatopoeia. The lion roared loudly. The onomatopoeia is roared. This emphasizes the sound the lion makes. Another example is, the balloon popped. The onomatopoeia in this sentence emphasizes the sound the balloon makes. Personification. Personification is when we assign human qualities to something that isn't human. These can be movements, emotions, or senses. For example, the tree is dancing in the wind. So, we know that trees don't have the human quality of dancing. However, this language technique makes the sentence more interesting and creates an image in the reader's mind. It sounds more interesting than just saying, the tree is moving in the wind. Another example is, the stars winked in the night sky. Remember that personification is a figure of speech. Therefore, it shouldn't be taken literally, as the words in the sentence convey a different meaning. Idiom. An idiom is a group of words that have a different meaning from the literal meaning. They're interesting ways to get a point across. Idioms are commonly used in spoken English. For example, break a leg. So, this doesn't literally mean break a leg, rather it means good luck. For example, I could say, I know you can do well on your exam. Break a leg. Another example is, the exam was a piece of cake. So, this means that the exam was very easy. It's important to learn the meanings of different idioms as they're commonly used in everyday spoken English. Remember that an idiom is a figure of speech. This means that it shouldn't be taken literally, as the words in the sentence convey a different meaning. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the same letter or sound at the beginning of words. Alliteration is used to make writing more interesting for the reader, usually in poems. It also creates rhythm and sets the mood. It's important to note that different repeated sounds will have a different effect on the reader. For example, the sly snake slithers slowly in the sand. The repeated S sound in the sentence suggests snake-like qualities, such as the movement of the snake or danger. Another example is, fair is foul and foul is fair. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is an exaggerated statement. It describes something to be worse or better than it actually is. It's a way to catch the reader's attention and to make writing more interesting. For example, they were dying of laughter. This is an exaggerated statement to emphasize that they were laughing so much. It doesn't literally mean that they were dying. Another example is, my suitcase weighs a ton. Again, this is an exaggerated statement to emphasize how heavy my suitcase is. Remember that hyperbole is a figure of speech. This means that it shouldn't be taken literally, as the words in the sentence convey a different meaning. Assonance. Assonance is the repetition of the same vowel sound in a sentence. This language device is used to make writing more interesting and fun for the reader. Assonance is usually used in poems. It also creates rhythm, sets the mood, and allows the sentences to flow. The vowels are A, E, I, O, U. Each vowel has two sounds, a short vowel sound and a long vowel sound. For example, Sam claps his hands and stamps his feet. In this example, the short vowel A is repeated. Another example is, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. In this example, the long vowel sound A is repeated. Oxymoron. An oxymoron is a sentence or phrase with two opposite or contradicting words. Oxymorons are used to interest the reader and causes the reader to pay attention to what they're reading. It also adds some playfulness in the sentence. For example, the chair is pretty ugly. Pretty and ugly are opposites. Another example is, Alex is seriously funny. Serious and funny are opposites. Remember that an oxymoron is a figure of speech. This means that it shouldn't be taken literally, as the words in the sentence convey a different meaning.